So we all think that we know what Arsenal need to go and finally win the Premier League title. Sign him, and everything will be great. And obviously, fans get things wrong. Kai Havertz, as an example. So, what we are going to do, for a bit of fun, is design a dream transfer window. If any of them happen, great. And otherwise, we'll just react to what happens throughout the window as it happens. But I always think it's good for us to actually put forward names. Right? It's really easy for me to go, sign a central midfielder, sign a world-class number 8, sign a 30-goal-a-season striker. I think we need all those things, but who? I think I have some names. I think I have some ways in which Arsenal can really kick on going into the new season. But I want to know your thoughts as well in the comments section below. Here is my dream Arsenal transfer window. When I say dream, I'm being somewhat realistic, because I wish I could just put Mbappe, Pedri, everyone into that list. But we're going to envisage a £200 million transfer budget. I think that's fair. That's pretty much that's the going rate for Big Six clubs spending really over the last few years, and it's what we've been spending roughly. So I expect that to happen again. And we'll sort of be quite fair on the figures as well. You know, we won't just say, oh, get Guimaraes for 40 million. We know that's not going to happen. So let's go through it. Let's address the positions. I mean, you've got my squad here, and you can see where I think we need to sign players. I expect Aaron Ramsdale to leave. I expect a left back to come in. I actually agree that Arsenal should be targeting that area of the pitch. Midfield gets interesting. I'm going to identify Declan Rice as a number 6 for me. I've really gone back and forth over this, whether he's an 8 or a 6, and I think this summer is going to say a lot about how Arsenal view him going forward in terms of the midfielder we sign. But I think he's a 6. His ability to break up play, sit in front of the defence. You can have double inverted fullbacks. We've got other great players on the ball. Ødegaard's dropping deep into build up. I would get a number 8 that complements the fact that Rice is a 6 and Ødegaard is one of our more creative outlets. So there's some names there. We'll go through that. And then I think we need a striker. I would go for a striker as a profile. I would go for an out and out number 9. But difficult to do. And I think the options out wide are perhaps better. So we're going to explore all these things. But let's envisage 200 million. And the goalkeeper, let's just get that out of the way really quickly. I like the links to Justin Bilo. Have I ever seen him play? Absolutely not. But he's good on Football Manager. And he's the guy who did someone shared it to me on Twitter. You know, when the goalkeeper, did you see that clip of the goalkeeper like clearing the ball? And then because he was off the pitch, someone, like the opposition player, picked up the ball, take the throw in. So he picked up another ball and threw it on the pitch to delay the game. Genius. I want him just for that. Jason Steele was another player who's been linked. The Brighton goalkeeper who started doing really well under De Zerbi. I mean, his distribution's phenomenal, so maybe sign him just for that. But he's, I think, 35, and his distribution's great. So if you're getting a backup, maybe he'll do the job. I don't know. Goalkeeper, I'm not too bothered which way they go. Chesney was even linked, but let's go with Steele. Let's go for Jason Steele, Premier League proven, and probably not expecting to be number 1, but would be very, very good if he had to step in, at least from a distribution perspective. Steele's our goalkeeper. Now, left back gets interesting. We were linked with Kadioglu a lot from Fenerbahce, who apparently is a very versatile player who can invert, who's played in lots of different positions across the pitch as well. Do I know anything about him? No. I have paid more attention to Joel Hato, though, because since the links earlier in the season, way earlier in the season, you know, you pay attention. This is a tall but very young player who is brilliant on the ball, compared to Timber quite a lot. I don't know if that's fair, but the comps suggest he is very technical on the ball. And he seems to have taken and shouldered a lot of responsibility at Ajax at such a young age, can play centre-back and left-back, crucially is left-footed. He's the player I'd want, because I think we can actually do with some youth at the back. I think we could do with the player, and Saliba's very young, White's young, they're all pretty young, right? Timber's only 22, 23. But I'm talking a player who I think it's going to be fine not being a starting left-back week in, week out, but then can add a little bit of youth to that team. I mean, look at the way Rico Lewis can come into City and inject something different, right? A little bit of sort of young blood into the team. And I'm not saying we're a young team as it is. I talked about this on a video recently that actually we need to get our average age up. But I think Joel Hato, at least for the back four, someone who's not expecting to play in, week out, but can come in as a young player, I'm all right with that. And more importantly, forgetting just the profile in terms of how often he's expected to play, where he is in his development and all that, he's just a very, very technically good footballer who stylistically, profile-wise, physically seems to fit the bill with the defenders that Arteta likes. So Joel Hato is probably the defender I would get in, and again another left-footed left-back option, so Timber can play right-back and compete with White or play centre-back. You know, you can mix it up, and that's great to see. So we move into central midfield and the forwards. You've got Steele, we've got Joel Hato in there. Now we're moving into midfield and the forwards, it gets interesting. I've got a few names for midfield. Hear me out. The one mainly linked is Bruno Guimaraes. You're all going to call me petty, but I still haven't got over this. It's not that I'm mad at him. It's just, I honestly think it's one of the worst decisions we saw in the league. But the thing about Guimaraes, there seems to be a temperament thing. Like, in most games I've seen him play for Newcastle, and I don't know if that's something we want in this team. Arsenal have kept a cool head. I think it's only 2 red cards in the last 2 seasons, but in terms of his quality, in terms of his tech and ability, his engine, his ability to play as a box-to-box or as a 6, like, I'm not doubting the talent. He's a phenomenal footballer. And did I go too far there? He's got the potential to be a phenomenal footballer. I know he's 26, but I really like what he's done at Newcastle. I think Arteta will get a lot out of him, and I think profile-wise he's really good for our midfield. I think it also allows you to sometimes put him at the base as a 6 and let Rice press up the pitch if you want to mix it up. Or you're just doing in other games, Rice sitting with Guimaraes, showing his flair and quality in the final third, which I do think he possesses a little bit of. He can get goals and he can really be a passing and creative outlet in the final third. So I think Emirates is a good name and a good option. The problem is that he's got a £100 million release clause to the end of June, and he's going to cost about 80 million anyway. So I don't think he's my dream central midfielder, because I wouldn't spend that much of our budget. If we're talking 200 million, I mean, let's put price tags on these, right? Still, I don't know, 5 million maybe. Joro Hato, 25 million, maybe 30. Call it 30 on the safe side. Say we spent 35 million, we've got 165 left to spend. I'm not putting 80 of that on Guimaraes, because I think that limits us for the forward, and I think the forward's important. But could you get a Frankie de Jong for 65 million? Could you? Because that is my dream central midfielder. Someone who can do what I said with Rice and Guimaraes, which is swap, sometimes be the deeper player, sometimes play in a double pivot with him, sometimes play as the left 8. I think Frankie de Jong can do all these things. Technically really good. Does have that creative flair about him, can play in deeper phases of the game as well, has played for Barcelona, so played at the highest level, has won the league before, played at Ajax. I just think he fits the bill so well, and it's how I've always kind of dreamed. Like, that's my favourite style in midfield. 2 slightly more lightweight profiles in De Jong and Ødegaard, whose technique is out of this world and their ability to pass and control games is phenomenal, with a Declan Rice who breaks up play and gives them the platform to do that. That, I would love that. De Jong, Ødegaard, Rice. What a midfield 3 that would be. But I don't know how available De Jong is. The reports and rumours are that Barcelona are willing to sell him, but I think he's got pretty high wages. Are they going to want about 65 million for him? Probably. Yeah, maybe. Listen, that's a deal worth doing, but again, when we're talking about balancing all these different positions, I'm not sure. The other player I've got in there is Locatelli. Now, I sort of just decided I rated Locatelli massively from the Euros when I saw him balling out for Italy, but has that spell at Juventus gone quite how he would have wanted since then? Now, I don't know. I've always said, I don't watch that much football outside of the Premier League. But technique is there. Can play as a 6, can play as an 8. The engine is there. It's actually a really good physical profile that Arteta's really liked in central midfield. And I could see them, again, switching between the 6 and the 8, Rice and Locatelli, but while also maintaining that presence. Is he a really creative outlet in the final third? I'm not 100% sure, but he's a very talented footballer on the ball and off the ball. So I think that is a player I'd look at, but De Jong is my dream player. Now, the other reason that I'd have those 2 ahead of Guimaraes is not only because of the transfer fees. I mean, what would Locatelli be? 50 to 70 million maybe? Something like that. I'm kind of making it up. But let's say De Jong's a 65 million pound player. That leaves around 100 million pounds to go on an Alexander Isak, and I think it's going to cost that to get the striker we want. Whether it's a Gyökeres at 80 million or so, Osimhen's going to be about 100 million. Isak, I've just mentioned, going to be about 100 million. If you want to negotiate for Kudus, that's going to be about 85 million, but let's focus on the out-and-out 9s for now. I would go for an out-and-out 9 at around 100 million and go big on that position, because you can have, as you can see from my squad, Saka and Jesus competing out on the right, Havertz and the new 9, let's call it Isak, as the 2 9s up front, and Trossard and Martinelli out on the left. I still think we lack something in terms of a more similar profile to Saka and Martinelli, but you've got players. If you get an Isak who's got bags of pace, he can play out wide. You got Nwaneri coming through, and Trossard and Jesus can do the job out wide. Like, I don't think our levels drop when it's those 2 out wide massively. They're just not as good as Martinelli and Saka, to be fair. And we did end the season with Trossard starting games. So I think that's how I would shape it up. And I'd go and spend 100 million on Alexander Isak, because he's that good, can play out wide, And I'd want the money to go to Newcastle for Isak over a Guimaraes personally. I'd much rather spend 100 million on Isak than even 65 million on Guimaraes. That's my personal opinion on that situation. But if an Isak isn't attainable, I understand that the other options up front aren't great. Gyökeres, what a season he's had, but it is only one season at the sort of one of Europe's top leagues. We mentioned other names. I think Osimhen will end up at Chelsea. So Kudus is someone I'd look at, and you might need near 100 million to get that done. It's crazy. We could have got him for around 40, 45 million last summer, but it might take 80 million to get him from West Ham. And again, I'd rather spend 80 to 85 million on Kudus than I would on Guimaraes. I know that might sound crazy to some of you, but I just think Kudus is... I think he's waiting to explode into a world-class player. I almost think if Jurgen Klopp got a hold of Kudus, he would do wonders. And in 2 years' time, we wouldn't even debate whether he's a world-class player. He's got the strength. He can play back to goal. He's got pace. He can play across the front three. He's a real handful. Super talented. Great technique. He can run at players. He can go on the outside. He can be a hold-up. He can do so many things. And if we can't get Isak and the striker isn't right, like a Sesko, if we're going to spend a lot of money, quite raw, I don't know. I'd rather win on Kudus and then you shift it so Trossard can be a false nine or Jesus can be a striker in that role and then Kudus takes up a place in the squad. That's how I would do it if you're going to go get someone like him. So my dream window is for £200 million, Steele for about £5 million, Hato for call it £35 million, so call that 40 in total. No, yeah, 30 million, so call it about 35 million in total there. 65 million on Frankie de Jong and 100 million on Alexander Isak. This is all fantasy stuff. We're just having a little bit of fun, but it's always good as well to just bring ideas. It's so easy to just sit there from a distance and go, sign a world-class 8, sign a world-class striker. Well, that's an idea how it could look. But I'd love a Locatelli. Kadioglu seems an interesting target. Sesko seems a really good raw profile that we could bring in to be as a backup, but would cost a lot of money. And Kudus is the one otherwise. If we're not going to get that big money signing in Isak or de Jong or whatever, I would really go and get Kudus. But again, we have to enter that bidding war with West Ham, and that could get interesting. Let me know yours in the comment section below. I want to know who you would go and sign. Give me some ideas, because I am struggling for names a little bit, but I'm confident that those players could do a big job at Arsenal next season. And I just want to say a really big thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, actually hit the links right here to watch more content like this, including my Football First podcast, which drops every Monday to Friday at 6 AM. And I know it's annoying, I am really sorry to have to ask, but if you want to show support to the channel, hitting the like and subscribe buttons help promote the content much more than you could possibly know. Thanks again.